Officer for Contra Costa Health. I am joined this evening by Matt Kaufman. Matt is the Deputy Health Director, and he oversees the hazardous materials team with Contra Costa Health. He's been in his Deputy Director position for 6-8 months, and before that had an extensive career in the hazmat team, so lots of experience and lots of knowledge there. The other person with us this evening is somebody you probably know, Dr. Ori Civelli, who is our County Health Officer, and has been side by side with us through many of these responses since, COVID. So I am going to, Ori and I are going to turn ourselves off, and then we are going to let Matt make some introductory comments, and then Ori might have a little bit of follow-up, but then we will dive into your questions. Our main goal here tonight is to just make sure that you have all the information you need as we go into to overnight. So I'm going to turn myself off. And Matt, I'm going to let you take it away.
All right. Good evening, everyone. My name is Matt Kaufman. Last name spelled Kaufmann, Deputy Director with the Contra Costa County Health Department. And I'll give a brief update on where we stand with the mercury spill at the Amtrak station in the city of Martinez. For background, at about 3 p.m. yesterday on Monday, May 8th, the Contra Costa Health hazardous materials team was advised by Contra Costa Fire of a possible mercury spill outside of the Amtrak station in downtown Martinez. Since then, we've been coordinating our response with a number of different agencies, and we want to thank them. That has been the City of Martinez Police Department and their Public Works Department, Contra Costa Fire, the Federal Environmental Protection Agency, California Department of Fish and Game, the San Francisco Regional Water Quality Control Board, the County Office of the Sheriff, their Office of Emergency Services, and Amtrak. Our hazmat teams worked yesterday and today with the US EPA response team to really determine the extent of contamination and to begin cleanup operations. Our investigations continued today since this incident began yesterday, and we now believe that the mercury was first located in a garbage can that's outside of the train station in downtown Martinez. The reason we believe this is we're getting very high readings from this garbage can, again, indicating that a large amount of mercury was present in this trash can at one point in time. And speaking with the city today, we now know that on Monday, yesterday, May 8th, at around 9 a.m. or so, the city of Martinez maintenance crews emptied this garbage can into the back of a pickup truck. That truck continued on its designated route, where we now have found contamination in the street as of this afternoon. We discovered that this contamination outside of the train station, and it's really on these streets. It's on Marina Vista between the station and Alhambra Avenue, on Alhambra Avenue between Marina Vista and Buckley Street, on Buckley Street from Alhambra Avenue to Barralessa Street, and on Barralessa from Buckley north to the City of Martinez Public Works Department, their courtyard there. So where we stand now, the train station does still remain closed and will stay closed until further notice. Amtrak continues to service the area of Martinez, and boarding is now being conducted at Ferry Street at Marina Vista, which is really the old train depot. We still do not know how the mercury got into the garbage can initially. We continue to coordinate with the City of Martinez Police Department as they continue to investigate this incident. We still don't know exactly how much mercury was placed into that garbage can or that has spilled throughout the train station and into the city streets. The initial reports were 1 to 1.5 pounds of mercury, but we have not been able to confirm that. But what we can say is that the levels of mercury detected in air in the streets where the contamination has been located are at background levels, meaning if you're in the street, we do not believe that there's a health concern for residents that may be passing through the area, breathing the air where the contamination is. But we do have concern about people sort of spreading the contamination that we have, the minor contamination that we found, which is why there was a health advisory issued this evening. So I'm now going to turn it over to Dr. Ori Zavelli, the county health officer, to give an update on the health advisory.
Thank you, Deputy Director Kaufman. So with mercury, the primary health concern is really breathing of the mercury vapors indoors. As Deputy Director Kaufman said, we haven't had reports of high vapor levels outdoors, and we believe it's safe to walk and breathe the air outside in that area. The reason we issued the health advisory today is we really don't want to make sure people don't walk where the mercury is in the street itself and then bring their shoes indoors, and then the vapors can build up indoors. So usually health problems only happen if a person breathes a significant amount of mercury vapors in over a short period of time, or a lower level of vapors over a longer period of time. Pregnant women and children are particularly susceptible to mercury vapors. And so breathing those vapors in over a period of time can cause symptoms like feeling anxious, headachy, diminished appetite, trembling, memory problems. Anyone with symptoms who may have been exposed to mercury should seek medical care immediately. But as I've said, we have not had reports of any medical concerns. We're just issuing this health advisory for the better part of caution to make sure that people don't inadvertently track this mercury into an indoor space. I'll now pass it back to Deputy Director Kaufman for final points.
Thank you, Dr. Zavelli. So as we indicated, we did issue a health advisory this evening, and really it cautions residents to avoid walking on the street in the areas that I previously identified. If you do need to walk through the area for whatever reason, we are advising residents to use the sidewalks. We have not found any contamination on sidewalks at this point in time. If residents do believe that their shoes or clothes may have touched mercury, because they either saw a pool of it, mercury appears sort of silvery, shiny, liquid, metallic material. If you believe that you have contamination on shoes or on clothing, what we're advising people to do is to put the shoes and clothing in a bag, seal the bag, and put that bag in another bag and seal that bag. So that's double bagging their belongings that may be contaminated. We then want people to place the bag outside of their house in open air, sort of outside of their house, and then call our Contra Costa County hazardous materials folks for further instructions. And that number is area code 925-655-3200. What we don't want people to do is attempt to wash clothing by either hand or putting it in washing machines. That's not really the route to remove the contamination, and actually will do more to spread the contamination, which is what we don't want to happen. So that concludes our remarks, and we're happy to take questions. So I'll pass it back to Kim McCarl. Thank you.
So at this point, a couple questions popping up. The first one I think might be for you, Matt. Under what conditions does mercury vaporize?
Sorry about that. So mercury is actually constantly vaporizing. And
Johnny, can you let them out, please?
Ori, we seem to have a second Ori on that is not muted. There we go. Okay, sorry, Matt, continue.
Sure. So mercury actually is constantly vaporizing, and depending upon the temperature, more will vaporize. So meaning hotter temperatures will produce more mercury vapor. And in fact, for every 10 degrees of increase in temperature, you get basically twice the amount of, or you double the amount of vapor that comes from the mercury. So what we're most concerned about, as Dr. Ori Zavelli indicated, is bringing vapor indoors, and then that vapor sort of accumulating in concentrations in an indoor space, and residents breathing that in.
Great, thank you. This one's probably for you as well. Is there any precedent for a spill of mercury or similar contaminant of this size in the county in your memory?
So the county has had mercury spills before, Contra Costa County. We have experienced mercury spills before. That being said, they are rare. And typically what we see is small amounts of mercury spilled. What we visualized yesterday at the train station is what I would consider a significant spill of mercury. Based on the initial accounts and seeing pictures and photos of the amount of mercury that was in the gutters and on street surfaces was significant. We have had previous spills. I think there was one in Antioch several years ago that may have been similar in nature, but these are rare occurrences.
Ori, I think this one might be for you. If someone was exposed, will they see an instant reaction, or does it take time for people to know?
Almost all the time, we don't see an instant reaction. There are some rare skin rashes if mercury gets directly on the skin, but we don't expect that to happen here. The mercury is now that we're concerned about is actually on the ground and in the road and in the crevices in the road. So we don't expect anything immediate to happen. And as long as people don't track it inside and breathe it inside, we don't expect anything to happen at all, actually, because the levels, as we noted, are essentially at background. So really what we care about is people thinking, did I walk in that area in the street? If I did, let me take my shoes off, let me double bag them and leave them outside, call the hazmat unit, and we can give you further instructions as to what to do.
Thank you. This next one, I'll answer quickly. There's a map with red areas on the county site. Is that accurate as far as contamination? So the community warning system that the sheriff's office put out, that map is a little bit broad. If you look at our social media, we posted a Google map with a red line. It's a little bit rudimentary. What we could do this evening, we'll do a better version of that tomorrow. But that map, that Google map with the red line that traces the path of the garbage truck is available for use on our Twitter and Facebook accounts. So hopefully that helps. So Matt, this one's probably for you. Does mercury have a distinctive odor?
Mercury is odorless. And so we have special detection devices that we use in the field to determine the presence of mercury and how much we're measuring in the air.
Hey, let's see, one more. This one also probably for you, Matt. Any fear of contamination spreading through the gutters and with the warming of weather?
Yeah, that's a good question. As I indicated earlier, we have been coordinating our response with a number of different agencies. And two of those have been the California Department of Fish and Wildlife, and the other is the San Francisco Regional Water Quality Control Board. We do believe that some of the mercury did find its way to a storm drain. However, we're unsure at this point in time if that storm drain leads to a waterway and if the mercury got to a waterway that would lead to the San Francisco Bay. So we're working with those agencies to advise them of the incident and make sure that they're engaged in assessing that portion of the response. In terms of warming weather, yes, as I was indicating earlier, as weather warms, we are going to see more vapor that could possibly come from the mercury. So we're going to have crews out for the next probably 1 to 2 days conducting cleanup of the minor contamination that we located today on the city streets. And one of the things that they will be doing is monitoring the air to ensure that not only are the cleanup crews safe, but also the residents that are passing through the area, possibly on the sidewalk, are still safe as well.
Matt, this one is probably for you, although I suspect you probably will pass this one to the Martinez Police Department. It's a little bit about how we think it might have gotten there.
Thanks, Kim. Yeah, that's a good question. As I was indicating earlier, we still don't know how the material ended up in the garbage can that we believe the mercury was initially placed in. And we still don't know the quantity of mercury that was placed in that trash can.
By when would we know if it got in a waterway, and what is the potential impact?
Yeah, so I think that's one of the questions that we're definitely working with the other agencies that I mentioned on is really making a full assessment of potential impact to waterways. Again, at this time, we're still working with those agencies to make that determination.
So this next question, why might somebody illegally dump mercury rather than attempt to dispose of it through better practices? Matt, maybe you can talk a little bit about what potential disposal opportunities there are for mercury and how that normally would happen.
Sure. Yeah. In Contra Costa County, there's actually 3 household hazardous waste facilities that are operated, and residents of the county are able to dispose of hazardous waste free at those locations. And I know that those locations do take small amounts of mercury. So what we would encourage homeowners is to look up their closest household hazardous waste facility, which can be found on our website, cchealth.org/hazmat, HAZMAT, to find the 3 household hazardous waste facilities that service the county. And again, disposal is free. Sometimes there's coordination that's required prior to making a delivery of hazardous waste, but we have the contact information for those facilities on our website.
Sort of along those same lines, why would anybody have mercury? What is the use for it?
So mercury is found in a number of different devices. I think most people have seen home thermometers. They're found in mercury is found in blood pressure cuffs. It's found in switches, but typically these are small amounts of mercury. The amount of mercury that I've seen pictures of from the first responders that initially discovered the mercury is more than what would be found in sort of a thermometer or a blood pressure cuff or a switch. So it tends to lend itself to that, mercury is definitely used in industrial applications. So it may have come from that sort of setting. Really at this point in time, we really don't know. Yeah.
And what happens if mercury gets into waterways?
So our primary concern if mercury was to enter the waterway would be that wildlife would consume food near the mercury or contaminated food, and then eventually end up into fish. But again, I think this is all sort of preliminary. We really need to work with our fish and game partners and the San Francisco Regional Water Quality Control Board to determine, where exactly the contamination may have gone, or even if it even reached the bay. And we're still working with partners to determine that.
So this next one I'll take. Are you going to be sharing pictures of the mercury found? We'll try. The mercury that you find on the street looks almost like glitter. It's impossible to take a picture of. We tried, but we have I think some other pictures from the parking lot of the station that we'll see if we can get approval to use. So more to come on that. I'm going to take one more call for questions. Let me just go through and make sure that I didn't miss anything. So it looks like there's one, Matt, about are there disincentives for properly disposing of large amounts of mercury, and what qualifies as a large versus small amount?
I would say that you would have to contact the household hazardous waste facilities to determine that exact amount. I have not heard of disincentives. I've heard that, there's more about working with the homeowner to determine how much they can bring to the household hazardous waste facility legally at any one time to dispose of a hazardous material that they may have large quantities of.
And Ori, maybe you can talk a little bit more about sort of the need to issue a health advisory and kind of what your thinking was around this afternoon.
Oh, sure. The reason we issued the health advisory was we do know that some people do like to walk around in that part of Martinez. It's really beautiful. There's a great marina. And these streets are sort of bordering that area, or people coming or going from the train station. And we just wanted people to be cautious there. We know that there's some mercury in the street itself. There's none on the sidewalks. And so that's why we really want people to stay on the sidewalk and to think to yourself, if I did walk in the street in that area, I should put my shoes in a bag, double bag it, leave it outside, and call the health department. We can help you get those tested to see if they're contaminated or not. Really, the concern was to prevent people from bringing shoes that may have touched the mercury into indoor spaces where the vapor can build up indoors. So that was our concern. We just wanted to be extra cautious. We think the risk to the community is very low. But we do know that some people do like to walk around in that area, and we wanted to give those people all the information that we have so they can make their choices.
Great, thank you. So those are all the questions that we have right now. So we will thank our two panelists for staying up late this evening to do this with us. There is a likelihood that we'll do some follow-up tomorrow morning, both via social media and potentially additional press releases as needed. So keep an eye on that. And I think you all have our media contact information. So if you have follow-up questions, reach out to us that way. So thank you so much and enjoy the rest of your evening.